Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. Ready to have some fun learning English?
Sounds good to me.
Today we're diving into something really cool, how watching movies and TV shows can actually help you improve your English skills.
Especially if you're just starting to learn English, this is a great way to pick up new words and phrases.
Think of it like this. It's a language lesson disguised as movie night.
I like it.
And the best part, our sources say it's way more fun than studying textbooks.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that makes movies so great for learning English is that they use natural everyday language.
Yeah.
It's the kind of language you'd hear in real conversations, not just the formal stuff you find in textbooks.
Right. It's like you wouldn't walk into a coffee shop and say, "Greetings, might I acquire a cup of coffee?"
Exactly.
And be like, "Hey, can I grab a latte?" Or something like that.
Exactly. Movies and TV shows, they help you learn that kind of natural conversational English. The slang, the idioms, the way people actually speak in real life.
Yeah. So it's not just about learning the words. It's about learning how to use them naturally, like a native speaker would.
Yes, exactly. And another important thing is you get to hear those words and phrases used in context.
Context, what does that mean?
Oh, good question. Context just means seeing how a word is used in a specific situation.
Okay.
So instead of just memorizing a definition from a dictionary, you're actually seeing how that word is used in real life.
Oh, that makes sense.
So you understand how and when to use it correctly.
So it's like if you see a movie and someone says, "That's awesome," after trying a really good meal,
right.
You understand that awesome can be used to describe something you really like.
Exactly. And the more you see those words and phrases in action, the more natural they will start to sound to you.
This is making a lot of sense.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
So it's not just about what people say, it's about how and when they say it. It's all about the context.
Yes, exactly. And another great thing about using movies to learn English is that it can really help you with understanding different accents.
Accents. Why are accents important? I mean, English is English, right?
Well, not quite. You see, English is spoken all over the world, and people from different countries and regions, they often have different ways of pronouncing words.
Oh, yeah, I've noticed that.
Right. So someone from the United States might sound very different from someone from England, even though they're both speaking English.
Yeah.
And then you have Australia, Canada, and so many other countries where English is spoken, each with its own unique accent.
Wow. So many accents to learn.
And that's where movies and TV shows come in. They expose you to all those different ways of speaking English.
It's like giving your ears a workout, right?
Exactly. The more you listen, the better you become at understanding different accents, even if they're fast or have unfamiliar pronunciations.
So it's like you're training your ears to be able to understand anyone speaking English no matter where they're from. That's incredible.
Like a superpower.
So we know that movies are great for learning natural English and understanding different accents. But how do we actually use them effectively to learn? Our sources say it all starts with subtitles.
Yes. Subtitles can be a fantastic tool, especially for beginners.
Okay, tell me more.
So if you're just starting out, you can watch a movie with subtitles in your native language.
So you can still follow along with the story.
Exactly. That way you can follow the story and start to pick up some English words and phrases along the way.
It's like a little sneak peek into the English language.
Exactly.
But what about when you're ready to take it to the next level? What happens then?
So as you start to feel more comfortable, you can switch to watching with English subtitles.
Okay.
This can be a little challenging at first, but it's a great way to connect the words you're hearing with their written form.
That makes sense.
You'll start to recognize words more easily and expand your vocabulary.
So it's like a gradual progression.
Exactly.
You start with the support of your native language subtitles and then gradually move towards English subtitles as you improve. You got it.
That makes a lot of sense. But I imagine there comes a point where you want to ditch the subtitles altogether, right?
Absolutely. The ultimate goal is to be able to understand movies and TV shows without any subtitles at all.
Oh.
It might seem like a big goal, but with practice, it's definitely achievable.
I like that it's encouraging. It's like anything else. The more you practice, the better you become.
Exactly.
And speaking of practice, I heard about this cool technique called the pause and repeat method.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
Of course. It's a fantastic way to improve your pronunciation and get more comfortable speaking English out loud.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's really simple. Whenever you hear a phrase or a word you like in a movie, just pause it and try to say it out loud yourself.
Oh, I get it. So it's like you're an actor in the movie practicing your lines.
Exactly.
That's such a fun way to learn. I might even try mimicking the actors' accents. But I imagine Choosing the right movies and shows is important too, right? We don't want to start with something too difficult. Oh, you're absolutely right. Choosing the right level is key. Especially when you're just starting out. You don't want to feel overwhelmed like you're trying to run a marathon before you can even walk.
Okay, that's a good point. So where should someone who's new to English even start?
Well, animated movies are always a good bet for beginners.
Really?
Right.
Cartoons. Why is that?
Well, for one thing, the language is usually very clear and simple.
Okay.
Plus, the stories are often told visually too, so you have the pictures to help you understand what's going on.
So even if you don't catch every word, you can still follow along with the story.
Exactly. And animated movies often use a lot of repetition, which is great for learning new words and phrases.
Your repetition is key.
Yes, you hear the words and phrases over and over again in different contexts, and that helps it stick.
That makes sense. It's like when you're learning a new song, you hear it a bunch of times and eventually you start singing along.
Exactly. Now, another great option for beginners is sitcoms.
Sitcoms, those are those funny shows with the short episodes, right?
You got it. Sitcoms are great because they use everyday language and focus on relatable situations.
Oh, okay.
So you'll hear conversations about work, family, friends, things like that.
So it's like you're getting a glimpse into everyday life and learning how to talk about those things naturally in English.
Exactly.
That's so much better than memorizing vocabulary lists.
Way more fun.
But what about when you're ready to level up your English skills? What kind of movies or shows would you recommend then?
Once you feel comfortable with the basics, you can start exploring other genres like documentaries.
Documentaries.
Yeah.
Those are the films about real life stuff, right? Like nature or history or science topics.
Exactly. Documentaries are great because they introduce you to a wider range of vocabulary.
Okay.
And they often use a narrative style that's engaging and informative.
So you're learning about something new and expanding your English skills at the same time. Two birds, one stone.
I like it.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to learn more about a particular topic in English.
Yeah.
It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities.
I love that. And if you're feeling really ambitious and you want to challenge yourself with more complex language, you could try watching dramas.
Dramas. Like those shows with all the intense storylines and complicated characters.
That's exactly. Dramas often use more sophisticated vocabulary and grammar than other genres. They can be a bit more challenging to follow, but they're also incredibly rewarding.
It's like the difference between reading a children's book and tackling a classic novel.
Yeah.
You really get a sense of accomplishment when you can understand a complex drama in another language.
Absolutely. And dramas often explore really deep themes and emotions, which can be a great way to connect with another culture on a deeper level.
That's so true. It's like you're not just learning the language, but you're gaining a whole new perspective on the world.
I agree.
But with all this talk about movies and shows, how do we remember all these new words and phrases? Sometimes my brain feels like a sieve.
I know what you mean. It's easy to forget new words and phrases, especially if you're not actively using them. That's where our next tip comes in handy.
Yeah, tell me.
Keep a movie journal.
A movie journal. Okay, what is that?
It's really simple. Just grab a notebook and keep it handy while you're watching a movie or show.
Right.
And every time you hear a new word or phrase that you like, just pause and jot it down in your journal.
Got it.
You can even write down the definition or an example sentence if you want.
So it's like creating my own personalized dictionary filled with words that I'm actually interested in learning.
Exactly.
I like it.
And here's a bonus tip. Try reviewing your movie journal regularly. It doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. Just 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a big difference.
Repetition is key. I'm starting to see a theme here.
It's true. The more you encounter those new words and phrases, the better you'll remember them.
And speaking of practice, don't forget that learning English doesn't have to be a solo mission.
It's way more fun to learn with others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how do you recommend incorporating movies and shows into a social setting?
Well, you could always start a movie club with your friends who are also learning English.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea. What a fun way to combine socializing with language learning.
Exactly. You could all agree on a movie or show to watch each week and then get together afterwards to discuss it in English.
I love it. It takes the pressure off because you're not just focusing on grammar rules or vocabulary lists.
Exactly. It's all about having fun and enjoying the process.
This episode has me really pumped to go watch some movies now.
Me too.
This has been such a fun and informative deep dive. We've learned so much about using movies and TV shows to learn English.
We have covered a lot of ground.
We talked about how movies use natural everyday English, the importance of context, understanding different accents.
We talked about subtitles, the pause and repeat technique, choosing the right movies for your level. keeping a movie journal.
Oh, and don't forget about starting a movie club.
Right. So many great tips to help you learn English while enjoying your favorite movies and shows.
So we've talked about subtitles and the pause and repeat method and choosing the right movies for your level and keeping a movie journal.
And we talked about starting a movie club.
Wow, that's a lot. So with all that in mind, let's do a quick recap for our listeners of the key takeaways from our deep dive today on using movies and TV shows to learn English.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so first up, we talked about how movies and shows use natural, everyday English, which is what you want to learn if you want to sound like a native speaker.
Right, because in real life, people don't always speak in perfect grammar or use super formal language.
Exactly. And speaking of real life, we also talked about how important context is.
Yes, context is key.
Seeing those words and phrases used in actual situations on screen can really help you understand their meaning so much better than if you were just like memorizing them from a textbook.
It's the difference between knowing the definition of a word and actually knowing how to use it in a sentence.
Right. Because at the end of the day, you don't just want to learn the words, you want to be able to use them correctly in real conversations.
Absolutely. And another important thing we talked about was how watching movies and shows can help you understand different English accents.
Oh, yeah. That's super important because there's so many different English accents out there.
So true. I mean, just think about it. You've got American accents, British accents, Australian accents, Canadian accents.
Don't forget about Irish accents, South African accents, New Zealand accents.
The list goes on and on.
It really does.
But that's the beauty of it all, right?
It is pretty cool when you think about it.
And by exposing yourself to all these different accents through movies and TV shows, you're essentially training your ears to understand English in all its diverse forms.
It's like you're becoming a master code breaker of English accents, no matter how challenging they may seem at first.
I like that, a master code breaker.
Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about some of those practical tips that we covered, because we want to make sure our listeners can actually implement these strategies.
Absolutely, actionable steps.
Exactly. So remember we talked about starting with subtitles in your native language if you're a beginner.
Yes. Don't feel like you have to jump into the deep end right away.
Start with what you're comfortable with, and then as you improve, you can gradually transition to English subtitles.
Exactly. And then eventually the goal is to be able to watch without any subtitles at all.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah,
But it's important to remember that it takes time and practice.
absolutely. Don't get discouraged if it seems difficult at first. Just keep practicing and you'll get there.
And remember that cool technique we talked about, the pause and repeat technique?
Oh, yes. That's a great one.
It's so simple, but so effective.
It really is. All you have to do is pause the movie or show whenever you hear a word or a phrase that you want to practice, and then just say it out loud yourself.
Exactly. It's like having a personal pronunciation coach right there in your living room.
I love it. Now, remember how we talked about choosing the right movies and TV shows for your level?
Right. If you're just starting out, you don't want to overwhelm yourself with something super complex.
Exactly. A good starting point is to choose something like animated movies or sitcoms where the language is usually a bit clearer and simpler.
And then as you get more comfortable, you can start branching out to other genres like documentaries and dramas.
Which will challenge you with a wider range of vocabulary and grammar.
And don't forget about keeping a movie journal. That was one of my favorite tips.
Oh, me too. It's such a simple yet effective way to keep track of all those awesome new words and phrases you're learning.
It's like creating your own personalized vocabulary list tailored to your interests.
Exactly. You can jot down the word or phrase, the definition, maybe even an example sentence, and then just make sure to review it every now and then.
Repetition is key. We've said it before, and we'll say it again.
It's true. The more you review those words and phrases, the better they'll stick in your memory.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of great stuff today, but before we wrap things up, I want to emphasize one more thing.
What's that?
Learning English should be enjoyable.
Yes. 1,000 times, yes.
Don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, and find what works best for you.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong way to learn a language as long as you're enjoying the process.
And that's what's so great about using movies and TV shows to learn English. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun.
Absolutely. You're immersing yourself in another culture. You're learning about different perspectives. You're expanding your horizons, all while having a good time.
So next time you're looking for something to watch, don't feel guilty about putting on a movie or a TV show in English.
Think of it as a fun and engaging way to boost your language skills.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover your new favorite movie or show in the process.
Now that's a win-win situation.
It sure is. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive on using movies and TV shows to improve your English. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Until next time.